Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to demonstrate how to continue working or starting to work on your midterm. Um, so make sure you check the requirements on the midterm. The sooner you start working on it, the better, and you'll be able to pace yourself a lot better through the semester, especially working with other classes outside of school, things like work or extracurricular activities, to pace your time better and work your schedule around everything, because if you start working on this sooner than later, you won't have as much to cramp into one time, especially with your other midterms going on. So this does take a lot of time. So I'm going to start by, I have this medieval themes thing going on. You're going to, for the midterm, make sure you check the rubric, but you're going to import all the objects that we've created this semester, like your sword, barrel, shield, crate, bookshelf. You're going to need walls and floors and all of that kind of stuff. And then we're going to create 3 additional objects or props or whatever you want to call it and add to your scene. So I am going to leave the old video I have of the torch. I feel like it's a pretty good simple video on how to model a torch, but I'm doing one that's a little bit more complicated. The other video is done with Autodesk Maya 2019, and literally like nothing has changed at all in Maya for modeling in that time. So excuse me, I'm a big fan of, and you should be too, of importing reference images. So I'm going to import my reference image. I'm going to go to my channel box and translate it at -12. I'm going to rename it torch image plane reference, and then I'm also going to create a layer and save, and then I'm going to tap this button twice so it's VPR, whatever. V is for visible, I forget what this is, and then R for renderable. I can't remember what it means. And then R is for renderable. I believe it's for renderable because it allows you to not be able to select it. However, it still remains in your scene. So I'm going to select that image reference again through my outliner, and I'm going to go to my attribute editor, and I'm going to do looking through camera. Now, when I start to break down this shape, I have to think of it in lots of different shapes to make it as easy as possible to model. So I'm going to try to do this as low poly as possible. Probably a lot of box modeling involved on this. I could probably use some of the deformers. I can't remember when I posted this, if it's before the modeling modifiers lab or not. If I can introduce it to you, I will. If not, I'll just do it a pretty standard way. So I notice I've got this back brace sort of piece, right? There's a lot of different working parts to this. So in here, this back diamond, I'll start from the back and move my way forward. It's just basically a cube. It's got 2 holes for, to mount to the wall, but I don't even really need to worry about those. I'll just place a something like hexagonal that looks like a bolt in that place, so I don't have to model in circles for them to go through. You could if you wanted to, but I don't need to do it for this particular reference. Then I've got this little hump in the middle that goes through a hole of this back brace looking thing here that comes up and loops around and swoops and grabs the torch as a stabilizing holding piece, right? Then I've got a torus in the 3D world down here at the bottom, which is basically an open circle that holds it in place as well. And then this back looking brace is just poly cube box modeled outwards and all that kind of stuff. The other thing I've got here are these vertical bracers that contain the flame. Connected to those vertical braces, there's 8 of them. I've got these horizontal cylinders that are mounted to it with these cylindrical objects, some kind of bolt of some sort. And then I've also got one on the top, one on the bottom in each segment, and then I've got this big cylindrical sort of cup looking thing that comes down with a mount piece that screws into the handle, and the handle is just like our sword, except this is more of an oval shape than it is a perfect circle or sphere. So a lot of working parts to it. It should be fun to model, and I hope I'm pleased with the end result. So I'm going to go ahead and just get started. I've imported my image reference. I'm not going to model directly off of it, but I could if I wanted to get it perfect. But I'm going to sort of move it into place in a little bit and scale it to appropriate proportions. So I'm going to start by modeling this torch. I'm going to even start by doing the top part. I feel like this might be one of the hardest parts of this model, but I'm going to make it as simple as possible for you to break down. So let's get started. I am going to go with a poly cube to start. And with this poly cube, I'm going to just pop into my reference or my perspective view, and I'm going to start to sort of manipulate this shape. Now, I could hand change a lot of this. I could use deformers, but since I said I keep it as simple as possible, I'm going to just keep everything as it is, and I'm going to change my height to like 25. No, not 425. Whoa. To like 25. And I'm going to change my width to 1. And I think that's all I'm going to do. I don't think I need one on the outside. So going back to this, let's go shading, wireframe unshaded and shading X-ray. So going back to this, I'm going to move this out of the way real quick. You'll see that, especially on these farther end, it kind of swoops down, goes straight where the bracers, cylindrical bracers start. And then it swoops back out and back in. So I'm going to kind of follow that design, and if I do it to the reference as best as I can, I'm going to go ahead and let's scale this down. Not too much though, because this bottom part has to sort of make it back. So it doesn't need to be perfect. I have my soft select tool on, and I'm just selecting, let's just say this one. I'm going to turn on my soft select, and I'm going to just start to sort of shape out. That might be too much. Shape out this model. And I like the direction I was going with it. I think that's pretty good. And then this top part kind of comes out. I might even need to add some geometry to this thing. So I'm going to extrude this part out. Hold shift, hold right click. Add divisions to faces, add divisions to faces on the little checkbox. And do 8 on linearly and V. Now, stick with linearly if you do it this way, and then there's a possibility that these might be switched, so if they might pop up vertically. So I just added a little bit extra geometry for myself, because, ooh, look at that. So that's kind of funky. To fix this could happen to you. So I'm going to show you how to fix it. You're going to select each one of these edges. You're going to hold Control and Delete. You're going to go to your multi-cut tool and recut these in. It shouldn't take very long. That's an example of like when you're trying to after you make any modifications and you play like in the attribute editor, you know how it ends up all funky? That's one of the reasons why, because it starts to like rename verts and edges and it doesn't know where to connect to. So now that I fixed it, I want to sort of rotate this out and drag it back. And then on the bottom here, I'm going to extrude out. Oop. And then back in. Okay, so I think that's a pretty fair start to this thing, right? Okay. So something like that. So now that I've got this shape down, later, before I continue pushing too far forward, I can get rid of a lot of this geometry. I'm going to delete all by type on history, but I don't necessarily have to. So if I was worried about poly count, which I'm not, I would start deleting some of these edges. I would just start by doing every other one, holding control and delete, and start delete some of the geometry. I mean, just to see what it would look like. Because I'm going to want to do this before I think that looks a lot better. So I'm going to hold right click, soften edges, soften edge. And now I'm going to, I've already moved my pivot point to the end. If I wanted to, I could snap it, which it did. So W under my object mode. And now, let me see, 360 divided by 8, because I want to get the proper degrees. 360 divided by 8 is 45, so I'm going to do each one of these at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to hold Shift and tap. You know what? I'm going to bring this out just a little bit more. So I'm going to bring it out to there. So I'm going to tap Shift and D, and I'm going to rotate 45 degrees. And I'm going to press Shift D. That's twice. 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times. And now I've got the start of my flame container thing, right? Then I'm going to create this cylindrical looking thing, and you could do, I guess you could do a torus. Oops, not a cone. Do a torus. But it's rounded, and I want it to be more square on the around the corners. So this will be perfect for that. Before I do that, if I try to move these, will it work? Yeah. Center this whole thing. And now I'm going to go to this here, and I'm going to snap that to my origin. Also going to bring it down. I'm going to scale it to where I need it to be. I think that's a pretty fair spot to put it. Maybe bring it inwards just a hair. Something like that. And now I'm going to delete all these faces. And now I'm going to go to my edge tool. I'm going to select both inner and outer edges on this, and I'm going to extrude. Drag these in. I'm also going to do one more extrude. There might be a faster or better way to do this, but I'm just going to do it this way. Scale them inward. Go to my vertex, highlight them all, hold shift, hold right click, and do merge vertices, merge vertices. And now, just to double check it's all working right, it is. And then now I should be able to get rid of this one if I need to. So the next thing I'm going to do is Control D, and I'm just going to drag this one down into place where I need it. Soften edges. And now I've got the start of that object. So if I go to here, you can see that I've got that shape pretty well. You know, it might not be perfect, but it's close enough. And now I've got a couple more things I need to do. So in here, I might want to bring this down just a little bit. I'm going to turn my shading and wireframe on shaded on. Bring it right to there. And this one right to there. Do same here, wireframe on shaded. What I'm doing is I'm just trying to like line it up with this cross here, and I think that's good enough. Right there, perfect. I'm now going to create an additional little cylinder that I'm going to scale and rotate. And I'm going to scale it really, that might work. And I'm going to hold W and hold V and snap that right there. And something like that, because it's got those little cylinder pieces right here, all the way around it. So I'm just going to go with that. Now again, I could rotate these at 45 degrees if I set my pivot point, which I think might be the easiest way to do it, to the origin. I'm going to press Shift D and rotate at 45. Nope. 45. Perfect. And 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I've got all of those in place. I can select each one of these individually, and I'm not worrying about poly count. Control D, and then grab these and bring them down. And it might be, it's right on that curve. So that's not going to work for me. So I'm going to need to bring them up a little bit, like right there, which means I'm going to bring this up a little bit, and like right there, just to match that reference. So I've got the start of this torch. Again, lots of cubes or cylinders on this. Of course, I chose something. Let's just see, where am I at with that? So you can still see, get a really good strong place on that curve. So it's probably about to here. I'm going to extrude these in. And then down. And then I'm going to hold shift, hold right click, and go to fill hole. I'm going to switch to face mode and poke face so I have my geometry looking clean, and soften edges. And now I've got the cup, if you will, of my torch, right? So I've got the torch started here. Now I'm gonna need to add a handle, which is another cylinder, which we all pretty much know how to do. And I will just basically do exactly what I did. Now I could do this another way, which might be more fun and easier. I could start with this sphere down here. In reference, I'm just trying to gauge a scale on it since I'm not building it exactly to the identical scale. But I like to get it as close as possible. And then it's kind of like, so the bottom of the torch is kind of like that. And we're going to switch this to be 8 and 8. And then we'll take the first thing I want to do is I want to get rid of this cap. And now I'm going to take these edges from here and just simply extrude these up in the shape of this handle. So I feel like this would be a pretty good spot for it. I could go all the way to the top, give it this circular shape to it. And then remember, there's those pieces that come down to sort of hold it in place. Now you could texture them in, or you could do something different, but this is a pretty good start to this little torch. And then if I want, I can add in some additional geometry. Now, the easiest way to go about adding in those if you were gonna model these in, the easiest way to do it would be to just cut in some geometry manually, I guess you'd say. And I'm just gonna take a wild guess. How far down is it? It's about 50%. We'll go there. I'm just going to eyeball the rest of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops. All right, that's good enough. And then you could literally extrude these in and then just kind of match it up here. It'd be a little bit more difficult to unwrap properly, but that's one way of doing it. And now I've got those little rivets in the torch as well. So the last two things I need to do, basically, or a couple things I need to do, is get this brace holder. I don't even have the piece that comes down right here to grasp it. So what shape did I just do? Polycylinder. And it looks like it comes around like so. I'm going to change my attribute editor. 8. And I'm going to scale this inward. And then grab both of these sides and just drag them in. And I'm going to grab this face, and I'm going to extrude it upward. It looks like it goes out. And then up. And this one I'm going to do DX, snap it to the center, Control D, modify freeze transformations, scale -1. These are all things that we learn in these labs, especially. It's not X, it's Z in this instance. Modeling the shield covers pretty much everything. But modeling the shield, we did everything as one object. So, or I showed you how to do it all as one object. So I'm going to do one last thing. I feel like this will kind of tighten everything up together and have this sort of, let me grab this and this, bring it down a little bit. I feel like this will kind of tie everything together in terms of these holders. And I'm going to grab both of these and both of those, scale it in. Oh, it doesn't work the way I want it to. So I'm just going to eyeball it on each one. Or I can do it to one and just flip it over again. Something like that. Delete this one. Modify freeze transformations. Control D. I know it's on -1, not here. And now I'm good to go. And now I could add a bolt or a screw in there to make it look right. One last thing is, because I didn't notice, bring it up a little bit more. Oh, yeah, that's fine. There we go. So that's my little holder pieces that are on my torch reference image plane. This piece right here with a screw in it or a bolt, which I could do another attribute editor, polycylinder 8. Snap it here, rotate it around to 90 degrees. Zoom in on it with tapping F. Bring it down. And then just drag it right over. So there's my little bolt holding this thing in place. Same thing. I could do the same thing I did before. Modify, freeze, transformations. Drag, hold D and X and snap that to the center of the grid. Control D. I know it's on -1. And now I've got my little bolts in there as well. So there is my torch, and now I need to create one last part to this, which is going to be the back piece to it. Now I know I built it at a much larger scale, but like I said, I wasn't going for perfection. I'm just going for something that's going to look really cool, as close as I can. Now I'm going to build that back piece. So go back to my reference. I need a cube. And it needs to be rotated at 45 degrees. And then I'm also going to go to add some geometry. And scale this inward. World. Rotate Y at 90. Oh, that's why I mixed it up. Okay, cool. So now we are going to drag this out, bring it down. This is about the centerpiece, so right here, I guess, right? This will be on the wall. But now I'm going to grab this center vert, tap B on my brush tool, and drag out that little divot that's in there. And it might be just a little bit too big. So we're going to bring it out just like that. I think that'll be good. And what I'm going to do next, turn off my soft select tool. And I'm going to extrude, oops. Extrude these pieces out. Now, if I wanted this to be a little bit more circular, I would just select every other one and have it come out like that. But I don't know if it's exactly circular. It doesn't look like it, so I'm going to go with that. Could. However you want to do it. I'm fine with it like how it is. And then it looks like it comes out to something that's going to hold it in a circle. So I don't want to waste too much time for it because this is, I know it's complicated. I could do a hook that comes around and does all this other stuff. You know what, you'll learn more if I do it that way. Otherwise, I would have just added a torus to the end of this. Let me show you the easy way first. And now I've got my little, right? If I were to do this another way, or I have it wrap around. I would actually, I'm not going to do it because I actually already did it up here. I would do the same thing that I did to create these curves up here. That's exactly what I would do. So now I'll stick with the torus just to keep things simple. I can go to my attribute editor, polytorus, do like 8 and 8. And then the radius on just playing around with some of these settings to kind of get it right. Either way, you get the idea. And now the last part to this. Now this is actually, this is going to need to be bigger. I wasn't thinking there for a second. Because just make it simple. And the reason is because this is actually going to have to stand on an angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group all of this together, highlight everything I need for it, go Control G, and then just rotate it a little bit, and then move it into place. That'll work. Something like that. And now I will create another cube. This one actually goes in front of it. And I built this so you could see what it looks like as it is from the reference. Attribute editor, polycube, height. I don't need all of that, but, and this will bring closer. Something like that. And then jump back to my reference. It's got quite a length up to the top, and then at the bottom at the bottom it just kind of goes to the bottom. So here I could do a number of different things. I feel like the fastest and easy, I'm going to need actually a lot more length than that. It was the nightmare before Christmas. Let's see. Oh, that's right. It does curve like that too. And then I would just need another torus at the bottom. And if I could just get that inner radius. Something like that. And now I've got, if I was going to get really fancy with it, let's do an extrude inward. Actually, extrude inward, delete these faces. I will extrude again, hold V, hold V, there we go. And then I gotta merge these verts. Perfect. And now I have it kind of exactly how it's supposed to be. I could take it a step further. Scale these inward to give it more of a rounder shape to it. And if I wanted to make this a little rounder, just for fun, scale those out. I know I'm playing around with it a little bit too much, but something like that. Bring that back in. And I didn't do any beveling edges or anything. Created this, and then I've got 2 bolts I gotta create. 6. Channel box. 90 R. Bring it down. I'm gonna snap that right there. Have it stick out a little bit. I'm gonna do the same thing. It might be too big. Bring this one down here. I think that's how it is. Something like that. So I got this little Hmm. There we go. So I've got this little torch here that I built. I based it off of this reference image. I didn't go ahead and name anything, so I would go through and name everything. I think this model is a model that is definitely worth building in separate parts. There's a lot to it. I know I was quiet a little bit there at the end, but I know you all saw what I was doing. So I've created this little torch, and now I don't have it touching the back end, so again, let's just make it simple. Attribute editor, switch this to 8, rotate it, channel box 90 degrees, drag it down, back over, make it a little thinner and longer, and now it looks like it's actually bracketed to it where it's supposed to be. Something like that. Anyway, it was just an idea. I try to get a little fancy with it because I know it sort of swoops up and down, but it really didn't matter at the end of the day. But based how I have it, I wanted both of these to sort of line up with the wall, which they probably don't. Yeah, it is. It's fine. So if this were the wall, right? You know. If we're bracketed to a wall, it would look something like this. And I can turn off my wireframe on shaded, and you sort of get this look to it. But that's a little complicated of a model. But really, I think it turned out. I don't think it's too hard for any of you to do. But I do have a little bit of more of a simple one in the older video below that has less of these curves and things. So if this is something that you liked, let's delete this. If this is something you liked, feel free to recreate it. Feel free to find a different reference image online, something that's a little bit more suited towards your skill level. You all know where you're at with this. And go ahead and model whatever you want. It doesn't have to be a torch. It could be something more plain or basic or whatever. But I really think, the more practice you do with this, the better you're going to get at it. And it's just all going to start to come together for you. Other than that, unless you have questions or anything, I'm just going to play around with this thing a little bit. But if you have questions or anything, feel free to reach out to me. But this is the torch that I built. I'm going to have this as a mount in my scene. I'm going to have it mounted to the wall, if you will. And then, I'll add a little fire in there too. So I hope you enjoyed this lab. I know it's a little complicated in terms of skill level. But like I said, if you can model that shield, you can model anything. And this is many different objects. So what I would do with something like this, I already have this grouped as one object as the torch. And then I could call this and this and this and this and this and this and this, group this, and call this torch bracket GRP. So I have them both in two separate groups, and maybe put one top group to it and call it torch and bracket GRP. So I got this, I select that, and now I'm pressing up on my keyboard. And I cover this in a future lab grouping, but it definitely helps. So now you can see that I've got my torch and torch bracket. I would love to go through and name all these. I just don't have time in this video. I think it's been going on long enough, but you get the idea. I hope you enjoyed it. Based off of the reference image, I think it came out. Oh, of course. I mean, I think it came out as close as I'm really going to get it. I could have been a little bit closer in terms of scale, but I wasn't following it perfectly. This whole thing is actually, if I were to match it a little bit better, you'd be looking at it at something kind of angle like this, right? But I'm pleased with the results. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. And I'll answer every single thing on a case-by-case basis. But again, you don't have to model this torch. I just did it for fun. I thought it would be a cool part of my scene. And drag this off a little bit. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. In fact, I'm going to do one last thing. Hope you enjoyed it. I just can't stop. I get carried away with things. I'll make these two like smaller so it looks like these are bracketed into the wall too. Anyway, again, perfect. Give it a little bit more. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're modeling something totally different and you have questions about how I would do it, reach out to me. I'll let you know what I think. And that's all I can think of that I covered. I covered so much, my brain's kind of mush, right? So let me know if there's anything I can help with, if it's even a different model with a different reference image, and I'll see what I can come up with and give you some tips, hints, and ideas on how to sort of go about modeling it efficiently and easily. So that's all I've got. Hope you enjoyed the video, and get working on your midterms. Have a good one.